the Everton family enjoys special bonds. As in all enduring and healthy faiths, the elders share eyewitness accounts of historical events to younger generations. In this series, we'll hear stories of Everton FC in the 1960s, from an Evertonian who's been at the heart of it all. Stories of a decade punctuated by 2 First Division titles and an FA Cup. Dr. David France is a 5th generation Evertonian. Born in Widnes, the now 78-year-old has spent the last 49 years living in North America and has travelled over 2 million miles to attend Everton games and introduce his Everton initiatives. David is the founder and driving force behind the Gwladys Street's Hall of Fame since 1996. He's written 19 Everton books since 1997. There's the Everton Former Players Foundation since 1999, Everton FC Heritage Society since 2008, Everton War Memorials since 2011, and of course the world famous Everton Collection. On behalf of the Everton FC Heritage Society, members Lewis Royden and Sarah DeBow visited the Dixie Dean Hotel in Liverpool to talk to another special blue, to provide a season by season review from 1959 to 1970. In this first episode, we set the scene exiting the 1950s and introduce some of the key figures of the years to come. Thanks very much for bringing us down to the Dixie Dean Hotel, David. We're here to talk about the 1960s. It's a decade that, for those who were there, really remember it and have great stories. And for those who weren't there, like us younger generation here of the Everton Heritage Society, we want to hear the stories, we want to know about it, and we wish we were there. So yeah, here we are, Dixie Dean Hotel.
Isn't it fantastic? It's luxurious. I feel like I'm on an Indian reservation in Arizona. I live next to the Hopi Indian reservation, and I feel like I'm the elder of the tribe, the Everton tribe.
You mean with us, the youngers?
I'm thinking of you as a young brave with your locks, and this young lady as the medicine woman. So,
okay.
Got all the pills.
Regarding the 60s, they always say in America, if you can remember the 60s, you weren't really there. But as an Evertonian, I can assure you, it was a wonderful time to be an Evertonian, and it was a wonderful time to be a teenager on Merseyside.
That's perfect. So 1959-60, like you've brought in the teenage counterculture. Liverpool was probably set to be the centre of the universe within the coming few years. Can you sort of set the tone of that decade for us, how the world was changing socially, culturally?
The world changed dramatically in that period of time. If I can just focus on Everton change, we'd had from being the champions in 1938-39, we'd lost our way. We hadn't lost our way as much as Liverpool, who were in the 2nd division. And I should say they were struggled there for 8 years before they eventually got their way back to the big time. And of course, they've done pretty well since then. But I'm talking about Everton. It was a time, it coincided, me going to Goodison coincided with the great man John Moores going to Goodison. And not just John Moores and his checkbook, but John Moores and his standards, his professionalism, his ability to run a business, his ability to see the future. He was a visionary as well. And as you can tell, I'm a great admirer of him. So our club went through dramatic change during that time. And this was on the threshold of it. And Moores was the man behind that. And now I'm going to tell you that I'm going to tell you the tales that I always tell you, and I must say that you've heard them before, but at least please look enthusiastic.
I've never heard them. I can't wait to hear them again, at least, and I'm sure there'll be a few that I haven't heard as well. So maybe they'll get the louder laughs, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, John Moores, he bought into Everton, and he was committed to making Everton the first blue millionaire, let's call him, Royal Blue billionaire. He was committed to making Everton at the forefront, restore it to the forefront of the English game, maybe the European game. And he spent his money. Like some chairmen don't spend any money. He invested his money in Everton to raise the standards, the facilities for the fans, and also what they saw on the pitch. And his focus wasn't just on winning silverware, it was on entertainment. And he had very high standards. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him afterwards. But I would say that during the 60s, there were two principal people. And I'm going to tease you now. One was John Moores, and in about an hour's time, I'll reveal who the other one is.
Okay. I look forward to hearing
good.
it. So, what age were you? Early 60s, if you don't mind me asking, of course. Like, were you a young lad at the start of the 60s?
I was. We just moved. I think I told you in one of our previous films. I'd lived in a slum, and we moved out of the slum in Widnes. And like many people in Widnes, we lived in a slum with, the one light bulb, etc. And we moved to a council house in a lovely council estate near a park. And but I'd failed 11 plus, so I went to the local secondary modern school, which was great. The problem was, of course, that I couldn't read, so it was. I felt comfortable there, not necessarily challenged, but I felt comfortable. The best part about it was close to the railway station. And therefore, we had a direct line from Manchester, Warren, Widnes, Liverpool Central. So I was allowed to go as a youngster on the train. I was considered mature and responsible enough. Obviously, I deceived my parents in that way, but they let me go there on my own. And I'm saying on my own, I was in short pants. And you can tell your dad at that time, lads, until about the second year at secondary modern school, we all wore short pants. And it was like the coming of age when you got your long pants. Yeah. It was a historic.
So when you say this was your uniform in school,
school and outside of school,
outside as well.
You didn't. Denim blue jeans hadn't been introduced then; they hadn't crossed the Atlantic.
So the short pants are like it's a cultural thing, not just not just a school uniform.
You're treated like a child. We were considered even then as children. Unfortunately, I was this child who got the train, who went 12 miles on his own to a big city.
What were your earliest memories of those experiences going into Goodison, the players? What attracted you to that time?
Well, it's just overwhelming, isn't it? The facilities. I mean, I'd gone to rugby league, I'm from Widnes, and I'd gone to watch Widnes rugby league. I was poorly as a child. I had scarlet fever, and I was in a special hospital, isolation hospital. It was a big illness at the time. They used to come with a fever van to cart you off, and you'd go up and spend 6 months in the hospital or whatever. And for me, I went to St Helens. They took me to St Helens, and I have to say, and I'm saying this to all the good people of St Helens, it wasn't a good idea for a lad from Widnes to go to St Helens. Spent 6 months there. But I had that, and it was wonderful. I'd gone to rugby league games, so I was used to going to watch professional sport. But for me, it was like cruel and unusual punishment to watch rugby league when I'm a fifth generation Evertonian. My dad, my granddad, and etc. Were Evertonians, and so to go to Goodison it was everything that I'd been told it was, and it was spectacular. It still is. Yeah. I was there yesterday, and my wife and I went to. We were allowed to set in the ground on its own. My wife and I were allowed to go. We went to the main stand. We just sat there, and I think somebody said recently that an empty football ground is the noisiest place in the world.
Yeah,
and it is because you can hear the ghosts. You can hear the voices of ghosts and everything. And you look out at the pitch, and you can see. Football is about memories.
Yeah.
And you look at the pitch and you can remember when this happened here and this happened there.
I feel exactly the same. I had a moment earlier this week, very similar to yourself, where I was privileged to be there with my little brother in a completely empty stadium. And we did the same thing from the main stand, looking out. And on a match day and stuff, the atmosphere is brilliant, isn't it? And you're surrounded by other people. But when it's empty, I found myself thinking about the people before me and all the generations before me. And I made the point that nobody alive saw Goodison built. This has been standing since long before us, and the previous generations have all made those memories that that I didn't have, that I don't have.
Yeah. It's strangely radiant as well at the minute, isn't
very
it? It
much
feels
so.
like it's come full circle.
Doesn't it look fantastic?
As a
The
stadium.
condition of the stadium is fantastic. I look at it and I feel the sense of belonging. Even if it's empty, I feel like it's a home.
It's home. That's exactly the word that was in
I
my
always
head,
say, it's a cathedral because we've got God in its corner, but it's much more than that. It's a spirit. An empty Goodison Park is a spiritual place. You can sit there and come to terms with yourself, life supporting Everton, which has its highs and lows, but it's a special place.
Yeah, and to have shared that with so many hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people who've been through those doors.
Well, one of the things I like about Goodison is you've got your mates, you've got the people you know, you've got the regulars, and you're surrounded by people you don't know. But Everton score and you're all hugging and kissing.
Yeah, exactly.
And know it's a transient experience, but they're family.
Yeah.
I always say that the bonds between the Everton family put biological families to shame.
Can do.
It's so strong that we have.
I feel like we're on a cusp at the moment. So at the minute we've got that the past, and we're looking straight into the future at the moment, aren't we? But did you feel like at that time in the 60s, that's how it was going into that vision that John Moores had at the time?
Yeah. Let me tell you about John Moores, if I may.
Please,
let me just because he's got his name on many things in the city, and he is regarded as not one of the founders of the city, but one of the great benevolent people of the city. He's made a significant contribution in many ways to the city. So, if I may, I'm going to read from my cheat sheet here.
Brilliant.
Where I've been asked to, because I'll talk forever about these subjects, is just to summarise each individual. And I'll go through John Moores and I'll go through the players. And I'm supposed to be limited to 4 things I'm going to say about them. Which is going to be a challenge.
Should we keep count, or
I'll
let you keep going? I want to hear them all.
Buzzer.
Yeah.
Or as to do on the Oscars, buzzer. They play the music and just phase me out.
We'll crossfade to the next.
John Moores, he was called Mr. John by everyone. He wasn't a very big guy.
Right.
He came from a very humble background. But my 4 things was he was successful. He was a successful tycoon, and he wasn't just success. And what made him unique, he wasn't successful in one area. He was successful in 3 different business areas. You've got, he started Littlewoods with his colleagues. He started Littlewoods Pools. He started the department stores. And he worked with the people at Sears Roebuck in America and developed the mail order business. So you can imagine if he'd have been around today, he'd have been the Jeff Bezos of the internet. He was that visionary
pioneer.
He was a trailblazer. He was also very ambitious as a person. He came from very humble roots, but he had these high standards, demanding standards. And maybe unrealistic standards sometimes of people. He had them for himself, and he had them for people around him as well. And he could be very autocratic. And, it was his way, or he'll listen to you and then you'll do it his way. It was very much that way. But his way was normally the right way of doing it. And he was very, very successful.
Was there a bit of amongst fans in those days, did people know who he was before he came to Everton? Was he a known name before his arrival here? Was there were those expectations from the fans?
It was a private man. It was just that, with the Littlewoods, is it on Edge Lane? Is it
I believe so, yeah.
On Edge, the Littlewoods coupon checking place.
Right.
A lot of women work there, so he was a great employer of people because they checked them by hand. And it's hard to believe, isn't it? All the football pools, so people knew he was related to it. His brother, it was, they were like, it was a family that was dominant. It just wasn't him on his own. But yeah, people were in awe of him. But we were all working class kids, and he was by then a billionaire. So there was this gap. But he would put in the programme notes that everything he was doing, he intended to make the lives of Evertonians better, be it the facilities, be it the team. And he was a man of his word.
Yeah. So there was a hope there as well.
Yeah. He when he came in the season before the decade we're talking about, he then became chairman. or became very influential on the board. And the first thing he did was get rid of the old and in with the new. That may be something for the summer as well. You know, it was a revolution in the playing staff, a revolution in the administrative staff as well.
Yeah.
He was going to bring in John Moore standards and systems. We were going to make good decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. So out went the old second division players and the likes.
It's a nice segue into the players.
I'm not going to put names on them, but they'd gone. And he went with his checkbook and he raided Scotland.
Yeah.
And he went to Scotland, to the top teams in Scotland, and his intent was, he knew that the English Football League had abolished the maximum wage for players. Players, you could only earn £30 no matter how good you were, how many international caps you got. There was a maximum wage. And I think they may have got the odd bonus, but it was a maximum wage. In Scotland, they were still restricted to whatever it was. So he went to Scotland and signed them all.
Yeah.
And if I may, I'll go over some.
I was about to ask, please do, because there's a strong list of signings in the early 60s, wasn't there? Some iconic names.
Yeah, the year before. He went and got
59,
Alex Parker.
Right.
Alex Parker, who many may not know about him, he was the best right back in the land at that time.
Okay.
He was a cultured footballer. Scottish footballers back then were far more cultured. They had a very short passing game. And they were equivalent, if not better, than the English teams. But Alex Parker came. He was polished. Here's my words. He perfected the sliding tackle. Yeah?
That's a bold claim. Yeah.
And he was astute positioning. And Alex once said to me about his only weakness was the fact he didn't have the foot speed for the English game. But he said in the sliding tackles, he was quicker on his bum than he was on his feet.
Fantastic.
I'd have liked to have seen that. See the proof of that.
The next one is Bobby Collins. Bobby doesn't need any introduction. This was the little general. He changed the club. Bobby came, and the club changed dramatically. We were no longer also-rans. We were competitive, we were aggressive, we were ambitious. Bobby Collins didn't suffer fools. He was 5'2".
I've heard he had tiny feet. Yeah,
size 2 feet.
Size 2 feet.
And
That's
I think that was an
unbelievable,
exaggeration as well.
Yeah.
He was skillful. I'm using too many words now. He was a great.
Save some for the next guys as well.
But he was a fierce competitor. I'd say he was inspirational. He was a key man. Let's just say, teams. Generations have key men in a decade.
Yeah.
He was a key man, and he could look after himself. At 5'2", he could look after himself, if you know what I mean. And he could not just look after himself, but he taught people how to look after themselves. And I think that was demonstrated at Leeds United, where somebody once told me he taught them all how to go over the ball.
How to go over the ball, as in like with in the tackles.
Yeah. Sorry, that's an old-fashioned term.
No, I just want to clarify. It made sense. I just want to. He was tough.
What they say, he put his retaliation in first. That's the term that they always use. So he looked after himself. He was 5'2". Yeah. He had to survive in the jungle of professional football. These were the big stars that they brought in. Of course, there were existing people there. One of my favourites, and I'll talk about later, was the last of the Corinthians, Brian LeBone. How can you sort Brian LeBone in 4 words? He was a sportsman. He was strong and fair in the tackle, maybe too fair. He hated committing fouls. Yeah. I don't think he ever committed a professional foul. That was not Brian's way.
No.
Strong, dominant in the air, mature leader. But what I liked about Brian, he had dignity. Footballers in those days, he didn't fall over and feign injury. The man had dignity, and he was blue to the core. Brian, he was one club man, lovely man, but such a proud Evertonian. One of maybe the proudest Evertonian I've met, because he promoted the club at every opportunity he could in his life.
Yeah, and always in a positive light.
Always
as well,
in a
wasn't
positive.
It?
Always, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Always in the positive way. He would turn a defeat into a learning experience. Yeah, it's something we learn from. Whether we'll build better next Saturday and whatever.
Very humble man too.
Oh, he was.
in his humility and his attitude, and always gave you time. I think I met him a few times.
That's a very good point.
Incredible.
He had that relationship with the fans because he was a fan. But he had that relationship with them. You know, he wasn't a professional ambassador. It just came. It was something he chose to do.
Very natural, yeah.
Another one from that era that we inherited was Brian Harris. And the term unsung, I think, is overused, isn't it? But he was unsung, and he was versatile. He started out on outside left. He went to left half. He went to left back. And then if there was an emergency, because we didn't have substitutes, he went in goal. So he was the versatile player. Oh yeah,
Did he play in goal?
If the goalkeeper gets injured, he'd go in goal.
He used to what?
He'd just pull on.
Didn't know that. I'd never heard that before.
And he was loyal. What you remember, two things you remember. Brian was that when we bought Tony Kay, Brian got shoved to one side, even though he'd been at the club for a long time. You know, nice. Tony Kay was British record transfer, outstanding footballer. But of course, Tony was banned, and Brian stayed around long enough to replace him. So Tony replaced him, and then he replaced Tony, and he made took great advantage of that opportunity. That we'll get to the 1966 FA Cup final, and I'm just showing it here to everyone. Where the man of the match, the man who got the man of the match award that day, was Brian Harris.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't Derek Temple and his goal. Yeah. It wasn't Mike Trabuco and his 2 goals. Yeah. It was
interesting that most players now will probably just switch off mentally, but that he stuck with it, didn't he? And then
of course, because
would sink back in.
Because that's later in the decade, isn't it? Whereas you're saying even from that from years earlier, he still had that.
He still had it. He was loyal to the club. He loved the club. As I said, he'd play anywhere for the club. Another one around at that time was Mick Megan, who was about one of the only homegrown internationals, although we did buy him from some club in the island. And Mick was one of these guys that's just underrated, does a job, no fuss, tidy, versatile. He was 2-footed. He could play. He started out as a left half, and when Brian Harris moved back from the wing to left half, he was converted into a left back. And then when we brought in someone at left back, he became a right back. So he could play anywhere. What can I say about him? Reliable, tidy, a great guy to have around.
Brilliant.
Now we talk about this was prior to the 59-60 hour decade, and John Moore was spending his money, and he went out and he spent, I've got it down here in my notes, £105,000, which was a huge amount. That was the total transfer fee. A star in those days cost about 30,000. And he went out and he bought Tommy Ring from Clyde, Scottish winger. He was a veteran. He was a traditional winger. He dribbled. Tommy's job was to dribble, mazy, wonderful footwork, and then cross the ball accurately to the centre forward. Something that maybe is a dying art nowadays. But accurate crosses. Unfortunately, he broke a leg, and he was never ever the same. Right. And he broke his leg at Chelsea. He bumped into the goalkeeper
against Chelsea.
At Chelsea, right. And that was the end of him. And they always used to say he tried his best to return, but they said he played maybe a couple of games after that. But they always say he's the only person that they know that hobbled onto the pitch before the game. He was never the same. After him, we've got Taffy Vernon. They called him Taffy, Roy Vernon. Rob Sawyer from the Heritage Society and I wrote his biography,
of course, and
it's one of those things that he's a hero, but the more you research his life, I'm not sure that you really like the guy. He was a controversial character. He was tremendous acceleration, over 5 yards, Roy Vernon, dazzling as a dribbler, clinical finisher. He's 20 goals a game kind of guy.
20 goals a game?
Yeah. Sorry, 20 goals a season. Sorry.
It sounded very impressive.
It wasn't that good. Yeah. I was going to make a joke then, but even pass on that one. Immaculate penalty take. There was no messing with Roy. He was a right-footed inside left unusual, isn't it?
Right.
But he was antagonistic, and he was this maverick. He was like, I don't know. The stories that we researched was, he took his wife up into bed at night and then go up to the nightclubs, and he'd go out to the Greyhound track and whatever. He was a maverick.
He was a real star of the day, wasn't he?
Enjoyed his life, but he was a great footballer, a tremendous footballer, and of course he established this telegraphic relationship with Alex Young, which we'll talk about later on. The next one that came along was young Jimmy Gabriel, who was a teenager. Favourite. We brought Jimmy in. We called him the Angel Gabriel, but I can assure you he was no angel. He was a swashbuckler. He was all action and whatever, he'd do anything. He was a midfield player and brave, good in the air, just put his heart into everything. Yeah, great guy, great coach. He came back and was a great coach at Everton. Great Evertonian. And I have to say, when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, I lived in Canada and also in the United States in the Pacific Northwest. When I lived on San Juan Island, he was my closest Evertonian. He only lived like 20 miles away.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I got to chat with him about the old times.
Yeah.
And, footballers love to talk about football in general, but about the memories. Fame is fleeting. Jimmy had a great career in football because he, after he left Everton, he was at Southampton, and then he was regarded as Mr. Football in Seattle. I think he still is. But of course, he came to Everton as a coach, and he had great experience as a footballer. But most footballers, fame is fleeting, and they miss it. You're famous for a few seasons, then nobody asks you for your autograph.
It's a short career anyway, isn't it?
It is,
to have highlight reel within
and
that.
You just discard it, aren't you? One of the things that we did with the Former Players Foundation, we made sure that they met one another.
Yeah.
We made sure that they were recognised and respected.
Had reunions. And
they felt good about it. Good about the club, which of course they did do. Once you're Evertonians, you're always going to be an Evertonian. But they feel good about their relationship with the club.
Yeah. And felt recognised as well, I suppose. That they hadn't been forgotten, which is a great thing.
At this time, what happens, we bring in all these stars, well, the first thing that happens is the gates go up.
Of course, yeah.
So the gates went up from 30,000 to 50,000, and on a good game, you get 70,000 in Goodison.
Wow.
Which is about going up for twice
what's in there.
Did that also, at that time, did the expectation from fans go up as well? You're paying more on the gate, there's money being spent. Did you want more?
Yeah, it was I think the first thing was we were no longer regarded as a mid-table, making up the numbers team. We were attracted. We got stars. These are the stars of the game. I mean, they may have come from Scotland, which we may not consider to be the breeding ground of great players since Kenny Dalglish. But back then, this was the place where the stars came from. And tremendous footwork, tremendous ball skills the Scottish players had back then. They were well known for it. They always used to say that you needed two in a team because they'll start fighting amongst themselves. The expectation was that the quality of what you saw on the pitch was entertaining. The people I've talked about mostly there, what we bought were forwards, attractive forwards. And we were an attacking. The manager was Johnny Curry, who'd been a star footballer of the year. He played for Manchester United. Nice. He played in the war for Everton during the wartime for Everton, but he was regarded as being a cultured fullback, the Warney Creswell type of fullback. He set the standards, I think, for fullbacks back then, and he brought that to his approach to the game. He wanted to play cultured, entertaining football, and that's what we did. We played beautiful football, and I said in one of my books that we lost many games, but we did so beautifully.
Yeah, if only that was still the case now. I think. And going back to the attendances there, I think was that in part as well due to games weren't televised, were they? If you want to watch this beautiful football. And see these great players, you've got to go. You've got to go.
Well, not that many people had televisions either back then. I mean, when we first got out was when we went to the council house. Eventually, we got a washing machine, which was a big deal. and we got a television, and it had like a concave lens on the front of it. It was 12 inches, made by Echo, black and white.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not sure it was in focus either, but there was nothing on watching. There was nothing worth watching on this television. Yeah. And of course there was only one channel originally, BBC, and it was on for only a short period of time. You know, they'd stop broadcast halfway through the day, and at night they'd stop. That was it, and you had to wait till some time in the morning. If you wanted to see the plays, you had to go to the game, and I'm bringing up now the games that I went to, if that's okay. And the two stars of the game at that time were Stanley Matthews, the legendary wizard of the wing, iconic figure. He'd won the cup with Blackpool when he'd come back and beaten Bolton Wanderers in the cup final. He was a big celebrity got knighted. He was the first footballer to be knighted. He was a veteran. I think he was 40 odd when I saw him play. Wow. And he played like a 40-odd year. Did he? You know, it was a real disappointment. You know, you'd heard about him, and he didn't contribute anything. He certainly didn't take on players. As soon as he got the ball, he got rid of it. You know, he was looking after himself. In comparison, the other star at that time was Tom Finney, who was a winger come centre forward, he was knighted. Yeah.
Played for England.
Played for England. He played for Preston, and we went to see. My dad took me to see him at Goodison, and at both of these games we won 4-0.
Wow, both. So that was against Blackpool and Preston.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but Tom Finney stood out.
I'm sure
he was just class.
Was he in the later stages of his career at that stage?
Yeah, I think that he'd just gone over the peak. He was a plumber. He was sort of like did foreigners at the weekend.
Yeah. I was referring to his football career.
No, he had a plumbing business in Preston, and he was very likeable. At one of the Hall of Fame dinners, he came to one of the Hall of Fame dinners.
Did he really?
Yeah, spoke great about Everton.
Fantastic.
He said that today, I've had the privilege of being called England's Alex Young.
Wow.
That's how he thought it. What a compliment.
Praise, isn't it?
Alex was Alex's hero. He played a game like Alfredo Di Stefano did of Real Madrid. The names that you may not know, but Real Madrid won the European Cup early 6 times on the run, and they had this Argentinian called Alfredo Di Stefano, and he was a deep line centre forward. He didn't look much, but boy, could he play. The talent, he used his skill.
Household name at the time, wasn't he?
He was. We never saw him because we never saw him play, but we
heard the name.
We'd heard of him. Yeah.
Brilliant.